Mickey Dickey here. I want to talk about the potential for a government shutdown coming up later on this month and what that really means. And got a website up here for you with the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget and all this kind of good stuff. And what I want to focus on is how many times we've actually had a funding gap or shutdown, the most recent being in the 2018, 2019 timeframe. And according to this website, there have been 20 funding gaps. And what I want to get out of this and what I want you to understand is that this happens relatively often, unfortunately, because we're a bunch of idiots and we can't seem to figure our stuff out. I'm not sure how you run your household or how most people run their households, but typically speaking, we have some semblance of a budget so that we can continue to pay our bills and go forward. But what does it really mean in the scheme of things? What it means to me is that the majority of these were closed down, as this website would suggest, over a weekend. So what you're going to come up to is we're probably not going to have any kind of consensus or anything that's going to happen before the end of the day next Friday. Just probably not going to happen. Just put that in your hat, and please, if something else happens and it actually does get done, just call it a blessing, because I don't see it happening, because it doesn't normally happen in this kind of a scenario. But they're probably going to take the weekend and get it done over the weekend, and I hate it, and I think it's ridiculous. I think it's all of these guys posturing. I think these guys are all just being idiots, because you can't tell me that the majority of us can't put together some kind of a plan, even though we're not politicians and handling this stuff. It just makes no sense to me. Put a bunch of us in the room that actually run businesses and know how to handle money, and we'd have this thing handled in about 2 hours, and we wouldn't probably ever have a problem again. Everybody wants to have their 15 minutes of fame. They all want to get on the news. They all want to get their ideas out there and all the political, it's all ridiculous. It's political posturing, and it makes no sense. And I'm not picking sides here. This isn't about Democrat, Republican. It's all about the morons who are up there not doing their job, getting things done. Now, what's this going to do to the stock market? It's probably going to add some volatility to the stock market and make things not as smooth as they should be. We're really not having problems, and yet the government can't seem to figure their stuff out. Personally, if it were me and I had the opportunity, anybody that doesn't get this done by next week should be fired. They should be done, because that's what's going to happen with some of these people. They're going to get furloughed, not fired, but they're going to get furloughed, and they're either going to have to work with no pay, or they're going to have to work, or I shouldn't say work with it. They're either going to have to work with no pay, or they're just going to basically get laid off or furloughed or whatever you want to call it. Now, eventually they end up getting paid, which is the stupidest thing about this whole deal. We put people, we don't pay them, and yet they end up getting the back pay handled on it, and it's costing us that and usually more. So again, I would look at this and go, if the people in Congress can't figure this out, first of all, they should go without pay and not actually get their back pay on it, and it should just be gone. And secondly, if they can't get it done, they should be fired. Let's put somebody in there that can actually get it done, because I'm sick and tired of having all this stuff done. They're talking about what normally ends up happening, and this website does a pretty darn nice job of explaining what's going to happen and what the shutdowns do. It's going to make TSA lines longer at the airport. It's going to close national parks. Now, again, this usually happens over a weekend, so it doesn't affect a whole lot of things, because a lot of things aren't open government-wise on the weekend, okay? But airlines, it's going to be a problem. And at times when we just really don't need it at this point. It's just stupid. So stock market-wise, what you're probably going to have is, the closer we get and we don't have an answer to the problem, you're going to see more volatility. You're going to see probably tech stocks taking a bigger hit. You're going to see some airlines taking a hit, because again, it could last forever. They don't last forever, folks. They last for a couple of days. They get the stuff done, and they make a mountain out of a molehill. And that's really what's going on here today. And like I say, it irks me, and I wish we could fix it. But even listen to some of these videos. I mean, listen to this one.
Breaking news out of Washington, and Emily Wilkins joins us now with the story. Emily.
Breaking news. Again, this has been coming for months. This is not new.
Hi, Tyler. Initially, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said that lawmakers were going to be staying in D.C. until they got that continuing stopgap funding done. But at this point, it sounds like members are actually going to be heading home. This comes after.
What was I just saying? If it were me, I wouldn't be going anywhere. Why are these people allowed to go home when they haven't done their frickin' job?
A number of very difficult votes this week, including one today, where Republicans, for the second time, tried to pass a procedural motion to get to a funding bill for the Department of Defense. And again, that bill failed to pass on the floor. A small group of Republicans holding it back over really a wide variety of concerns about the process for government being funded, about potential funding for Ukraine. And at this point, it's just very difficult to see what a potential path forward in the House would be. Now, there are bipartisan bills that were put forward last night. You have about 60 Republicans and Democratic members endorsing that proposal. And of course, you have the Senate. Funding bills have to originate in the.
Okay, so we have bills that are out there. So why aren't we done? I wish somebody could actually explain this to me. And I don't mean in government speak. I don't mean in political speak. I mean in real, normal, everyday terms. It's not this complicated, people, or it shouldn't be. And if we're making this complicated, it's because we're all idiots. And I tell you what, it almost makes me want to look at everybody down there and say, you're just all a bunch of morons. It shouldn't be this hard to figure this stuff out.
The House, but there are different loopholes and things that the Senate could do to move. But at this point, it's just not clear what Congress's next step is here. And with less than 10 days before government funding runs out, a shutdown seems more likely than ever before.
Again, really? Is this where we're at with this stupidity? So here's another one.
This morning, chaos in Congress as the government lurches towards a possible shutdown amid a battle over.
So here's my question on this one. When isn't there chaos in Congress? Maybe I'm missing something, but it sure seems like they're just a bunch of idiots running around and they have no idea where they're going or what they're going to do and what is actually going to happen next. Isn't that just the definition of chaos? Again, why are we going home? Why are we allowing them to go home? I don't get it. Government shutdown looms. Okay, great. Bunch of idiots.
For spending, with no clear end in sight.
Nobody should be leaving town until we've sorted this out.
The federal government runs out of money at the end of September. Without congressional action, it shuts down on October 1st.
It's not September 30th.
Why do we have to wait till it's the actual deadline? Seriously, I don't get it. It's the first yet. No, you're right, it isn't. But you shouldn't have to wait to the first to actually pass a budget, you idiot.
The game is not over, so we continue to work through it. And I've been at this place many times before, and we're going to solve this problem.
And yes, you have been at the place before, and you shouldn't be there anymore. We need to get set up so that we have term limits for every position up there. For senators, for representatives, they need to have term limits, and we need to have age limits. I know I'm going to be called an ageist or whatever in the world, but I tell you what, most large corporations in America, most Fortune 500 companies have age limits on their boards, on their CEOs, and they do it for a reason. They need new blood. They don't want people sitting in there forever and just not even hoping, but just planning on it. Again, we don't need career politicians in here. We need to get things done. We don't need people sitting back going, I've been here before. It'll get handled at some point, and it's not the last day. Oh, stop it.
Democrats and some Republicans have argued for a stopgap plan to buy.
Why do we need a stopgap? Why do we need to just kick the can down the road? Fix the problem.
But House Republicans, backing away from a deal struck with President Biden earlier this year, are demanding steep spending cuts of roughly $300 billion, slashing budgets including education, nutrition, and environmental programs. But this week,
okay, and I hate it when they put up stupid stuff like that. We're $33 trillion in debt, and they're talking about $300 billion. Now, I'm not saying $300 billion is a small amount. Don't get me wrong. For most of us, $300 billion, I know it is for me. I don't know about you guys, but $300 billion is a lot of money. It may not be for Musk, but whatever. But for the federal government, $300 billion versus $33 trillion isn't a big amount of money. But then they'll put up something up there and say, well, they want to cut education and they want to cut this. Why don't you give me some examples of what they're actually trying to cut rather than just having a generic term out there? Because I'd really actually like to know what they're working on. And if you can say they're trying to cut education, show me, explain it to me so I can understand why we're having a hard time here. Because no one seems to want to explain why this is a complicated scenario. I really don't think that it is.
They have struggled to pass anything at all. The stalemate frustrating even House Republicans. What do you say to people back home who may not follow this that closely, but just expect you guys to get this very basic function of your job done and fund the government?
We're dysfunctional.
There's a shocker for you. Dysfunction in Washington. Put that down. It's breaking news.
It's just that simple.
That's simple. We are so dysfunctional.
A government shutdown would force hundreds of thousands of federal workers to be furloughed or to work without pay until the shutdown ends. National parks would be closed, and government services like food safety inspections, passport applications, and small business loans would be slowed. Democrats and President Biden hoping to lay the blame for any shutdown at the GOP's feet.
We're back at it again.
And again, I'm tired of having all the political mumbo jumbo here. It's not about Democrats and Republicans, or it shouldn't be about Democrats and Republicans. We're Americans. We need to get this stuff done.
Breaking their commitment, threatening more cuts and threatening to shut down the government again this month.
Now, the House plans to work a rare Saturday session to see if they can find some way to break this logjam. The Senate has been handling its work on a bipartisan basis, but they stumbled late this week, too. So next week is shaping up to be a very busy week on Capitol Hill.
Oh, my heavens, they're going to work on a Saturday? Oh, no. How are we going to survive? I'll be shocked if they do. And if they do, I don't think it'll be this Saturday. I think it'll be next. And frankly, I don't think anything's going to get done. What does it mean in the scheme of things? Absolutely nothing. They're going to get it done. They're going to get it handled, but they're going to make some big holy baloo about it. And that's what bothers me the most. They're going to make this out to be some big, hairy, scary deal. And they're going to make it about politics. They're going to make it about Republicans and Democrats and all the baloney going on. And honestly, I'm sick and tired of it. Do your jobs, get it done, and stop trying to get your 15 minutes of fame and stop trying to make this out bigger than it is. Dickie out.